Does it show you if you got viewers?
It should. This is the
Cool.
first time. So we're running about 45%, 50% uploading. So it's still rolling.
Okay. I interrupted your introduction there, but I'm ready.
That's fine. I've still got other things that are that I can throw in between and do the editing later. It's no problem. But I wanted to kind of change something a little bit different. So welcome to Beyond the Bench podcast. And on this episode, we are going to discuss the mentorship in the automotive and transmission industry. So tonight I have with me Mr. Jeff Martell from Evolution Drivetrain in Canada. Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I started in this industry in 1996. I was fresh out of high school, give or take. I was working in a wrecking yard. In May of 1998, I was recruited to what was at the time, medium-sized remanufacturing facility for transmissions, differentials, transfer cases, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up working there from May of 1998 until June of 2010, when I walked out in a fury of rage and anger. And then I went on my own in July of 2010, and I've been doing that ever since. I've been on my own then. I've been in all levels of this industry. I've worked in building, I've worked in advertising, I've worked in sales, I've worked in management, I work in ownership. Now I do all of it right now with myself and 1.5 employees. I have a girl that comes in and does some paperwork, some data entry for me, and I have one full-time guy who does R&R and tries not to screw up too much. I've been, I mean, you name it. I've done it all. I mean, I'm here. I can tell you all about all levels of it. I've been mentored. I've done mentoring. I've worked with some great guys over the years who are fantastic technicians, but difficult personalities.
Yeah.
I've worked with some guys who are good personalities, but not great technicians. I've worked with guys who are illiterate. I've literally been in a technical room with a guy and I've watched his eyes and I've been like, this guy can't read. And he's building 4L60s. So I've seen it all, my friend.
He can see it, but he can see it and understand it. But as far as like reading comprehension is like offset.
No, not comprehension. He literally could not read. He literally could not read. I'm not joking. He literally could not read.
So he just couldn't read at all, but he could comprehend what he was doing.
That's debatable. That's open to interpretation, my friend.
Okay. All right. So who was the most impactful mentor in your career and what did they teach you?
Okay, so this is an emotional topic for me, right? Because this guy worked for me for a period of years, as well as I worked with him at the previous remanufacturing facility, and we did not end on good terms. I had to let him go right before Christmas 2018. I was in an environment with him at the time where he was angry all the time. He was angry at the world. He was angry at me. He's angry at his wife. He's angry at his dog. He's angry at traffic. He's angry at just everything all the time. And he was like this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned more from him on a technical standpoint than anybody I had ever worked with. And I can literally trace down a gigantic portion of the knowledge that I gained from one conversation written on a napkin in a technical room with him. And this is like way before I was on my own. This is probably circa 2003, where he was literally writing down on a piece of paper the early days of how automatic transmissions work, right?
Yeah.
And how the early engineers had to figure out the hydraulic pressures for governor pressure to generate 1 psi of pressure per mile per hour of road speed in order to achieve a shift. So say your 1-2 shift was going to occur at 15 psi, well, that was 15 miles per hour. So that was where that spring would have to stroke that valve and send oil to the next clutch pack. And then say your 2-3 shift was going to occur at 30 miles an hour. That PSI from the governor had to generate 30 PSI to get that shift to happen at 30 miles per hour. And then, of course, that had to be overcome by TV pressure or throttle pressure to force a downshift to occur at that road speed. So working with him was, incredibly intelligent, but at times very difficult guy to work with.
Yeah, and I've seen that, and I've been through that with one individual, and he's not from the States. He's not from Canada. He's from overseas entirely, and just his demeanor on how he approached things and how he looked at things was just so demeaning, but you could learn a lot from him, and he was so direct. And that was something that I took into, and I kind of put myself back at a time. And he's a good colleague, still a good colleague of mine today, but he's not in the technical automotive industry now. He's in the industrial side, and his quality of life is a lot better from where he was at and what he's moved into now. But the thing about that the newer generation coming in may or may not attract to that. So what could we give to them on that type of demeanor that is a mentorship to this, like take from it?
My opinion, like that doesn't work with the current generation at all. And I get that perspective, not from just the industry and the business. I get that because I coach youth sports. Yeah. I've been working with youth for the last, my daughter's 15 now, so the last 9 years. I've been coaching 10-year-old boys the last year. I've been coaching 15-year-old girls. Mm-hmm. And what you start to discover is that type of approach, it may have worked on our generation. We were a little bit harder. I mean, I come from a background of playing rugby where guys would run you into the ground and you ran till you barfed. We had coaches. This guy could kick a ball. If you screwed up a drill, he would literally take a swig of his cigarette, throw his clipboard on the ground, scream, "God damn it," and guys would kick the ball 60 meters and you had to run back. And the last guy back had to do push-ups. Yeah. That doesn't work now. So with these kids, you have to have a mentality of like you're coaching and you're being firm, but you're always positive. And that mentality of old school, hard mentality, it doesn't work anymore. Now you're having to be constantly positive no matter what happened. And that's not a bad thing. It's just the way that society has changed and evolved. And, I mean, I've worked with kids who are, I've worked with, especially the girl side. Like I love coaching youth sports with girls because they're very responsive. A lot of them want structure and they want discipline and they want to be encouraged. But the way you approach them is very different from how you would approach people from our segment. I mean, I have 2 really great coaching stories that I'll share here that hopefully people watching this will pick up on, right?
Yeah.
One of them was my daughter was young and she was not aged out to play 15U. She was aged to play 12U. But the kids wanted her to play up. And I ran into a couple of girls the one day and like, "Well, you're going to coach us this year?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know." Like, "Well, if you're not coaching, we're not playing." I mean, well, if that's not a huge compliment, like, I don't know what is, right?
Yeah.
And then I had another incident, just probably my single greatest moment of coaching and whatnot. I had this girl who played for me for like age 6 to 15U girls. And she was steady and reliable, but nothing spectacular, but she always played okay. Well, we're in semifinals and she's having a terrible game. She's taking foul after foul after foul. And she takes a penalty inside the box, which in soccer is a penalty kick.
Yeah.
Luckily, our keeper saves it, right? But I have to pull. I have no choice. That's it. If she's not out, I'm in trouble because the team is melting down. So pull her out and we hang on. We get a 1-0 win and we're going to go to finals. And between games, I'm walking from our field to another field to see a friend of mine's son play. And I see her. And I'm like, "Come and walk with me. I want to have a discussion with you." I'm like, "You realize why I had to pull you out of the game, right?" She said, "Well, I need the penalty in the box." I'm like, "That wasn't it. It was your teammates were all let down by what was happening out there. Like, you played well for years. I'm like, if I put you back in the finals, can you turn it around and play like you played for me for the last like 6-7 years?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, I got you, coach. I can do this. Finals, lights out. Didn't make a single mistake. The single biggest jump of maturity I've seen in a young athlete, a young person in my entire life. Won the game, won the championship. Done. Just like that. But by approaching them in a non-negative way, I told them, like, "I'm not just a coach, I'm a dad too. I don't feel good about taking you off the field. Right? Yeah. I want you to succeed. I want you to understand why I had to pull you for the team." Lights out. She was lights out. Like, it was an incredible moment. Right.
And that's a style that actually does work in the industry as well. Like taking that approach directly in the positive light instead of a negative side of it, because the more negativity that you bring to one style, it either brings them down instead of lifting them up and trying to bring them forward.
When you're working with, for sure, when a kid makes a mistake, and the kid who works for me he's reliable. He'll come in every day. He's always late. He'll work through lunch. He'll catch up at the end of the day. It's just the nature, right?
Yeah.
But if you're hard on him, you can see he's bucks, right? He's stressed.
Mhm.
Whereas if you coach it through and say, hey, this is why we have to do this way, and this is how this works. Most of the time, they're going to adapt and they're going to learn from it. Whereas if you're hard on them all the time, they're going to pull back and they're going to be negative towards you because they get negative on them. And they're just from a different era. Like they're not conditioned for the same way we were 20 years ago, where we didn't get a lot of positive encouragement. And some of us, it turned us around and grew us, and other ones just completely shut down.
Mhm.
And so, what is the better path going forward? Well, at this stage, I believe the positivity is the better path going forward. Being able to coach them through and educate them on the fundamentals, and that is what I think is really lacking in the trade right now: is fundamentals of operation, fundamentals of theory of operation. The kids will come out of the trade schools and they're really weak on basic theory. The reality is that everything around us hasn't changed since the 1920s or 30s. Everything still works the same. It's still basic physics, still basic operation. It's just
Yeah.
that now it's a solenoid doing it instead of a valve in hydraulics, right? It's
Mhm.
it's computer control, and in some ways that's an advantage. Like in the old days of hydraulic transmission failure, you had to know the hydraulics of that unit, what circuit were you chasing, what spring was a problem, what check valve was a problem, what plate was a problem. Now you get a solenoid failure where you know what circuit you're chasing right away. I got an 8L90 coming on Tuesday that I know has a harsh one too. Well, I already know I'm looking at an S6 damper problem because
Mhm.
that's what's controlling that clutch coming on in the 1-2 shift. So I have an advantage in that basic knowledge, but I know that because I studied the fundamentals to know that if I have a hard shift, what's a hard shift caused by? Well, it's caused by an accumulator problem. The accumulator is a pillow, right? It's a cushion for the shift, right? Valve strokes, some goes to accumulator, some goes to clutch pack.
Yeah, and the
So
computer
the
tries to
positivity side of
and tries to fix one section when there's a problem, then it tries to add more and more and more, and then it becomes a reaction.
it's a reaction problem, and that reaction isn't always correct too, as I've discussed before, where
Yeah.
it will generate a code for one problem, but that's not necessarily what you're going to find when the unit's apart. Like it
Yeah.
may say you have this clutch stuck on and this gear ratio error. That's not the case. That's just the data it interprets from what it's seeing happen. So
on that point, to where the fundamentals are not met, that they need more understanding of the fundamentals, is what I'm getting from some of the ASEP students and some of the comments that I'm feeding into, and just paying attention to what's going on industry wide through social media. And the biggest thing that I'm getting with the feedback is the manufacturers are pushing. Well, I'll say this: GM is pushing more of the fundamental baseline and more classes to do for like online training, and they're doing specific assessments if you want to take to um, pull back in some areas you may miss out on or you may not know. And they even have a full boot camp. They have individual boot camps for each section of the automotive field, and plus one full 8-week training class that came up just in the first of this year. And I brought that up to the service manager at the dealer, because some of the ASEP students looking at that's where the dealer can pay for the training for them to go through exactly what they're going through already, that they're paying to go through in college, that the dealer can do that for the new tech, and it would be full on by a GM instructor, not somebody at a college, and that is
are
full
these,
specific. And it
are
would
these
have
online or in-person classes?
in person.
For me, online is terrible. I'm not a great online learner.
Yeah.
I'm always better in person, hands-on, seeing what has actually happened. It surprised me. I don't know about this side of it, right? Because I'm independent. I've never worked in a
Yeah.
dealership environment. I've always been in independent facilities, right? So I feel like the manufacturers generally are pushing to replace, not repair.
I agree.
And I feel like they just shove parts in, let it go, or even sell a new vehicle, not repair the existing vehicle. And then so the fundamentals knowledge that I'm referring to when I speak about accumulators, reconnecting here.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still here. Can you see me, or am I frozen?
We got a connection issue here.
I don't know if it's on your.
Yeah, no problem at all. Just me reconnected. No, you're not frozen. So what I see is themselves are they truly like base fundamentals, or are they like current, like this is basic information you should already know when you're coming out of college? And then is the college instructing true base fundamentals, or are they instructing like current information back? So again, I come back to that conversation that I had with him years ago on a napkin. That's base fundamentals of hydraulic operation back to the 1930s, because that's really still how everything actually works.
Yes.
Everything works like that. Nothing's changed on the motor. It's just been adapted to our current technology, right? So when they come out of that college, let's say they're going into automatic transmissions, do they understand how hydraulics work through a valve, through a hydraulic, through an accumulator, how a piston strokes? I mean, how many times have you had a guy say, "Oh, the lip seal tore, and that was the cause of failure"? That's never the cause of failure. That's the response to the failure. There's been a hydraulic leak that's caused a clutch to burn, the piston's overstroked, and the mechanical return spring has pushed it back once there's no longer oil there. That's what's torn the lip seal. Correct. But the kids aren't taught that, oh, the lip seal failed. The lip seal's never failed. The lip seal is the reaction to the previous failure, right? But they don't know that because that's not what's taught. It's not in the basic true fundamentals.
So looking over everything, it's pretty new to me. It's just something that I brought up and seeing that they're focusing on more training, and the kickback or the response that I'm seeing is that the manufacturer is pushing more training because of problems and issues with either like a comeback issue or a repeat repair problem. And Alex kind of pushed on it a lot, that especially about like warranty times and how things even roll with that. And I'm working with or talking to another mobile mechanic right now on some of his labor times, just something he just popped up in a feed and then talked about it on YouTube. And we started having a discussion where some of that labor time is completely wrong. And you'll see it between different guides, and just trying to pull all the way back, but not trying to get off too far off topic of this. But it's something that Alex really sees, and he knows and understood, and he wasn't afraid to say it, that the bigger problem that is perceived in that aspect is the pay and the scaling and the flat rate.
100%.
And that becomes
100%. A perfect example. If you look at the R&R time, on a 3-liter eco diesel motor on a Ram 1500, the book time on it's like 16 hours. There's no way you're swapping that motor in 16 hours. You could be Superman, it would never happen. You're talking minimum 24 to 30 hours with a cab pull and everything else that has to go underneath that motor out of there. And this happens in every aspect of the industry, whether it's transmission, engine, brakes. The labor times are absolute trash. So how do you recruit and maintain young people when they get there and they have to buy $20,000 worth of tools? And then on top of it, you're paying them peanuts wages. Like most of these guys are coming out at $24, $28 an hour. It's impossible. You're not going to recruit the best. And then the second problem to that is what's needed to work on cars nowadays isn't necessarily the old school mechanics. It's computer nerds. Well, guess what computer nerds don't want to do? They don't want to work on cars, right? So you have a double whammy there. Your recruitment is going to be a problem, and that you need guys who are not only good with their hands, but they're also tech savvy. And it's not that they're not out there, but to get the best of the best, you're going to have to pay them. And that's just the reality of it. And you're going to have to pay them like fairly, not just pay them like okay and nudge them along where they're barely making a living. Like that guy has to go into there every single day and feel like he's getting paid his value. Because if he's not, he's going to step into a different industry. You got all these guys who are in that mindset. They can step into being an electrician, a plumber, and numerous other trades where the wages coming out are higher to begin with. The tool costs are lower, and the other factor is the dealership drama is lower. They don't have as much BS to deal with when they're working at a dealership, dealing with service writers and managers and everybody else is there. Never mind what's going on behind, right?
Mm-hmm. So that's something that I've been bringing to the attention of everybody that's at the dealer, and I was requested to come back to aid and assist in a downtime frame, and at the point that they couldn't get an 8L90. It had extended warranty involved into it. and they were not going to rebuild it. Like the extended warranty wanted to put a reman unit into it. So it was a long conversation with everybody. And that was the 19 GMC Sierra I did the video on with using Superior parts and running through that whole entire situation.
Did that work, by the way?
Not exactly.
Did Superior parts work, by the way?
I had to pull it back out. I had to pull it back
for
out.
shutter or for a harsh shift?
It was for a shutter. And even putting the Sonic stuff back into it, like it was a full Sonic zip kit. So all of it, even every single valve into it. And the nightmare situation with this truck was the fact that it was the second owner. So the original owner, I come to find out, brought this vehicle for all these problems with a shutter, slip, bang, bumps, and had some codes that were set into it. But it was nothing like that would lead me to electrical or worrying about a solenoid problem to kind of gauge where we're going to go with this thing. So customer declined, went across the street to the Dodge dealership, traded it in.
Okay.
They cleared the codes and sold it as is with an extended warranty, and it ended over at the dealership.
Back at the dealership.
So it opened up a can of worms, and I'm trying to have a discussion with everybody in the dealer. And, you know, after I built the unit, put everything together, and even after I pulled everything back out with the Sonic stuff, it was still there. I could feel it. I knew it was there, but nobody else could tell it was there.
So
there's still an underlying.
You could feel a shutter, right?
In dynamic mode.
And as soon as it was in second gear and dynamic was on, that's the other key to this. So it's been my experience, and I ran this the first time probably, it's got to be 5 or 6 years now. I remember the customer, I knew him well. It was 10 minutes from me. The usual solution for an AL90, guys will go after the fluid first. Like, yeah, I mean, I have varying opinions on ULV. I don't think ULV is worth a shit. I think ULV is actually part of the problem. I have found that the way to fix all of them, like without any question whatsoever, that has worked, has been either new or properly rebuilding the valve body. I have not used the Superior yet. I've used the Sonax. I have one to do this week the same way. Running a regular synthetic multi, get away from the ULV. I firmly believe the ULV is a problem. And then disabling the DOD, the AFM completely, and disabling lockup until 6th gear, and they never come back. Those trucks will actually go into AFM and into DOD in 2nd gear, and it won't indicate it on the dash. It will only indicate it on the data on the scan tool. And what you'll see happen is the truck will go 1-2 shift, DOD, vibrate, drive like shit. And the combination is the combination of the lockup shuttering and the motor being in 4-cylinder mode. Get rid of those two, truck is gone. You never see it come back.
Yeah, that's mostly what we do. The situation was this is not a vehicle that's in an independent shop. And no. I've already had so many conversations with everybody. I'm like, somebody's going to spend some money to fix this for this customer regardless. But like, you know, the warranty's not going to pay for nothing. The dealer's not going to do one thing or the other. And I tried to had a minor sit down conversation with the customer, trying to educate him on the system. He didn't want to change nothing. He wanted the dynamic mode in it. He wanted the start stop system still there. He loved everything about the truck. He didn't want to change anything about the features. And that was at a point to where I had to stop with the tuning side and fixing that, and just had to kind of pull back and take the Superior kit out, put the Sonic stuff in it. And I knew it was still there. Nobody else felt it. And just, but it had to at the
your hands are tied. Yeah, your hands are tied at the dealership level. There's nothing you can do about it. That's just the politics of being in that environment versus being independent. So
yeah. So that's kind of, most of the guys do see that. Even the ASAP students see basically everything that I see. So they watch all of us and what we're trying to do as far as learning and understanding. So bringing that light to the mentorship that I'm teaching them is that what they're going through and what they're learning in the beginning is going to be the basic knowledge, and then there's an outside world that's going to teach you a heck of a lot more beyond the experience that you're in.
Absolutely. And problem that I see is that the basic knowledge coming out of the trade colleges is just not adequate for what's happening in the real world.
Mhm.
I got a device storage warning here.
Not enough storage
Oh,
for
for Christ's
recording?
sakes. We might have to pause here for a sec. Yeah, give me a sec. I gotta pause this and just clear this up. Give me one sec.
Okay.
I'll come right back. Christ's sakes.